tell you what. I'll tell you what. It's amazing to me how President Donald Trump's nominees for his cabinet were these shocking picks. They were just so far out of left field. They were never going to get confirmed until, of course, they did. What's up? This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, and we are one step closer to making America healthy again. MAHA is going to be a thing. It looks like MAHA is going to be happening. According to the Senate Finance Committee, they cleared Robert F. Kennedy Jr. out of committee. He's done. That's it. That's it. Now he's got to go to the Senate for the full confirmation vote. But a couple of the holdouts are no longer holdouts. A couple of the holdouts have made, at least they've said on the outset that they're all pro RFK Jr. now. They're all behind. They're falling in line. They're falling in place. And by coming out of the Finance Committee with a positive vote, 14-13. It appears that RFK Jr. is well on his way to become the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, which is phenomenal for multiple reasons. There's so many. This is so historic. First of all, you've got a guy who's not a doctor in charge of the Health and Human Services Department, and that is great because the last thing we need is some doctor in there, who's going to just basically tell us everything that he thinks is true. Because he's a doctor. We're going to have somebody who's basically a lawyer and has spent their entire life fighting against the medical establishment to try that's just been browbeating us and bullying us into believing whatever it is they tell us about our health and our lives. So that's exciting. Also, it's the first time that a Democrat, I believe, has sat in a cabinet for a Republican. I'd have to go back and check on that. But at least in this particular position. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to keep in mind, his father was the Attorney General of the United States. And so this is now historic for him. And I know it's exciting for him because if he does clear the Senate, if he does get confirmed, that means that he too will have a cabinet position just like his father. And that is very exciting, even though his entire family hates him. Even though every Kennedy, but that's the beautiful thing about this. That's how you know RFK Jr. is in it he's in it for the right reasons. He doesn't care about what his family thinks. He doesn't care if they're calling him crazy names and talking about him putting rats and mice in blenders to feed to the snakes and the hawks and whatever. They're calling him a predator and every other name in the book. He doesn't care about that. He wants to make America healthy again. And if he has to sacrifice his family ties to do it, dadgummit, that's exactly what RFK Jr. is prepared to do. So we're really excited about that. If you missed it, this was the committee vote just about an hour ago before we began this program. And it was right down party lines. And the holdout, or the vote that wasn't the holdout, but the one that was the hardest to get was of course, Bill Cassidy from Louisiana. Bill Cassidy, keep in mind, voted. This is a guy who was a Republican from Louisiana, still is. And this is a guy who was elected by getting an endorsement from President Donald Trump. He was elected by getting, nominated and President Donald Trump campaigned for him. And then once he was elected, he turned his back on Donald Trump and stabbed Donald Trump in his own back. He voted to impeach President Donald Trump along with Mitt Romney, one of the very few Republicans in the Senate to do so. And he's still around. I don't know how that happens. I don't know what's up, Louisiana. What's up with you guys down in Louisiana? But he's still around and he's still hanging tight. I think he's up for re-election coming up here in just a little while in 2026. I'll have to double check on that. But he was the holdout and he was the one getting all the attention. And J.D. Vance called him. A bunch of other senators called him. I don't know if Donald Trump called him. I don't think he did. But RFK Jr. had they had long talks. They went for long walks along the Washington Mall at night and they discussed health and human. I don't know what they did. But apparently Senator Cassidy came around and the vote was 14-13.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Grassley.
Aye.
Mr. Grassley, aye. Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn, aye. Mr. Thune.
Aye.
Mr. Thune, aye. Mr. Scott.
Aye.
Mr. Scott, aye. Mr. Cassidy.
Aye.
Mr. Cassidy, aye. Mr. Langford.
Aye.
Mr. Langford, aye. Mr. Daines.
Aye.
Mr. Daines, aye. Mr. Young. Mr. Young, aye. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Barrasso, aye. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, aye. Mr. Tillis. Mr. Tillis, aye. Mrs. Blackburn. Mrs. Blackburn, aye. Mr. Marshall. Mr. Marshall, aye. Mr. Wyden.
No.
Mr. Wyden, no. Ms. Cantwell.
No.
Ms. Cantwell, no. Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, no. Mr. Warner. Mr. Warner, no. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Whitehouse, no. Ms. Hassan. Ms. Hassan, no. Ms. Cortez Masto. Ms. Cortez Masto, no. Ms. Warren.
No.
Ms. Warren, no. Mr. Sanders.
No.
Mr. Sanders, no. Ms. Smith.
No.
Ms. Smith, no. Mr. Lujan.
No.
Mr. Lujan, no. Mr. Warnock.
No.
Mr. Warnock, no. Mr. Welch.
No.
Mr. Welch, no. Mr. Chairman. Chairman votes aye. Mr. Chairman, the final tally was 14 ayes, 13 nays.
The vote was 14-13. The nomination is reported favorably. We will now turn to other senators who would like to make a statement.
Yeah, we don't care about your statements. It's done. We're done. And half the people get up and walk out at that point, so the statements are kind of pointless. But Bill Cassidy did get up and he made a statement in the Senate and he put it on the record and he said, look, here's the deal. We think now that Donald Trump is going to get RFK Jr. confirmed as Health and Human Services Secretary. We're pretty sure that Pam Bondi later today will get through, and it looks positive for Tulsi Gabbard as well, which is phenomenal news because when Donald Trump gets the people that he wants in the places that he wants them, amazing things happen. When Donald Trump gets his nominations through, the frantic pace with which they get right to work and start making positive change for the United States of America, it makes your head spin. It is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Pete Hegseth, for example, look at this photo. This is Pete Hegseth and Tom Homan kicking it down at the border. Pete Hegseth, this is the Secretary of Defense in his fatigue shirts with his "We the People" tattoo next to Tom Homan. Who just know Tom Homan is like sitting there just counting the number of illegal aliens that he's going to round up today. He's like, I wonder if we could get to 2,000 today. I wonder how many illegal aliens I could get today. You know, with Pete here, it's pretty good. I think we're going to do fine. But this is America right now. This is American exceptionalism. Keep in mind, the former border czar was one Kamala Harris, even though she denied it to her dying day. I guess she's not dead yet. Her political career's dead. So her political career's dying day. Then the Secretary of Defense was Lloyd Austin, who, went AWOL twice and didn't tell anybody. Just left, went to the hospital for God knows what reason and didn't leave anybody in charge of the strongest and largest and most deadly and lethal fighting force in the entire world. Just took his chances. And now we've got Pete Hegseth and now we've got Tom Homan, double H, H&H, as I call them. And they are killing it, man. They're up there. They're down there at the border and they are getting ready. They're putting people at the border. They're fortifying their forces. Remember, Donald Trump sent troops to the border. This is no longer just the Border Patrol. This is no longer just the Texas National Guard. This is no longer just, militia that are showing up there. This is the United States military. Tom Homan is running ICE. Pete Hegseth is running the Army. And they're both there and they're making sure that our border is secure. And it is so refreshing to see. And don't you just feel more secure with these two dudes? Don't you just feel more secure knowing that they're leading tens of thousands of Americans on the border and protecting us from fentanyl and deadly drug dealers and gangs and all those other? Of course you do. Of course you do. That's why Donald Trump put him in place. And now just imagine how great things are going to be when you have RFK Jr. in charge of Health and Human Services. And he's making sure that vaccines are safe. And he's making sure that the pharmaceutical companies aren't ripping you off. And he's making sure that your kids' food and your kids' lunches are actually good, not like Michelle Obama tried to do and failed miserably. And he's going after the people who have been taking advantage of you and your health care for decades. He's going to make positive change just the way that Hegseth and Homan are doing. Oh, Hegseth and Homan. That's a great name for like a movie or like a revamped version of Starsky and Hutch. Hegseth and Homan. I'm telling you, I look at this photo of Pete Hegseth and Tom Homan and I think to myself, Hannibal and Face from the A-Team. Don't you? Isn't that what it is? There's Hannibal and there's Face Man. And they're taking care of it. All we need is like Mr. T and Dwight Schultz to round it out. So we got B.A. Baracus and Howlin' Mad Murdoch, and we've got the A-Team. We got the A-Team back together. It's really exciting. And I, as a big A-Team fan growing up, I'm stoked. I'm stoked that we have the real life A-Team. G.I. Joe. That's the other thing. I used to play with G.I. Joe. That sounded weirder than I meant it to. I used to play with G.I. Joe when I was a kid, and this to me looks like a G.I. Joe. I mean, this is what G.I. Joe looked like, minus the bottles of water. But anyway, I'm just very excited. I'm very excited, not for the future, for the present, because so many great things are happening right now. So many amazing things are happening as we speak. You don't even know right now what's happening in this world that Donald Trump is doing to make your life better. Caroline Leavitt was on with that guy. What's his name? Hannity. That's his name. Caroline Leavitt was on with that guy. And by the way, Caroline Leavitt and Tom Homan and all the other spokespeople for, with Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, all of these people that Donald Trump put in place, not only are they doing an amazing job, but they're on TV every 5 seconds talking about what an amazing job they're doing. These people are not only out there telling you, hey, or out there working diligently to make America great again. They're giving full transparency, and they're showing up every time I turn on the TV, I see Caroline Leavitt. Every time I flip channels or go online, I see Tom Homan. This morning, Pete Hegseth and Tom Homan were talking to Fox and Friends, which I have to imagine is weird. And do you think it's weird for the guys at Fox and Friends? Because remember, Pete Hegseth was on Fox and Friends weekend. They always want you to remember he was on the weekend, but now he's being interviewed. What's it? Lawrence, I think is his name. Hold on, Fox and Friends. And I have to imagine it's very different. Imagine you work with somebody, right? Like, I don't know, let's say you're an accountant, okay? And you work in accounting, and there's like, I don't know, maybe 8 other accountants that work with you. And then all of a sudden, one of them becomes Secretary of Defense, your buddy Pete. And all of a sudden, your buddy Pete, who you work with in accounting, is now Secretary of Defense for the United States of America. He's in charge of the largest lethal fighting force in the world. And he's at the border making sure that the cartels don't shoot Border Patrol agents and that deadly drugs and rapists and murderers don't come across the country. Oh, yeah. And he's working with Tom Homan, the border czar. And now you have to go interview him. And you're like, hey, Pete, I'm sorry, Mr. Secretary. I mean, how weird is that? I have to imagine that that's really bizarre. Here it is. It's Lawrence joins. Look at this. Lawrence joins Hegseth for first border trip as defense secretary.
You two gentlemen's commitment that by the end of this 4 years, and I know you both, I know the president has confidence in you both, that we will have, for the first time in American history, operational control of the border. Is that a promise y'all can keep?
I mean, Lawrence, sooner than that, if it takes that long, we're not doing our job right.
We're not waiting for 4 years. We're going to get this done.
Tom's going to go find him internally. We're going to prevent him from coming in the first place. And between that, we're going to secure the country because that is national security.
I mean, that's got to be the weirdest thing in the world. That's got to be this guy was your coworker. You used to party with this guy at the Fox News company Christmas party. And now he's on the border saying, yeah, well, listen, Tom Homan's going to go in and domestically root out all these people and send them home. And I'm going to stand here with a bunch of guys with guns, and we're going to make sure that they never come back in. And you're like, dude, I used to borrow your makeup. Actually, Lawrence probably didn't borrow Pete Hegseth's makeup because they have different skin tone. We got to have a lighter makeup for a lighter. Yeah, it does. You know what? Doesn't even matter. But I'm just, it's so weird. Anyway, I'm glad it's happening. I'm so excited it's happening. I love all these guys. And Tom Homan, by the way. So yesterday, I don't know if you remember. I'm so excited. I didn't even tell you to subscribe to the channel yet. Let me take a breath. Okay, there we go. Took a breath. Let me remind you right now that if you like what you're watching, if you like what you're seeing, if you're into this so far, if you're like Jazz like me, if you're getting excited about America, if you're like, ooh, I can't wait to hear Mark Kaye tell me what Donald Trump and his Avengers are doing next, then here's what you're going to want to do at this very moment. You're going to want to hit subscribe on whatever platform you're watching. YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch. I know I always forget when people on Twitch are like, you always forget about us. I'm sorry, there's so many. But if you want to, wherever you are, if you're listening to the podcast, there's an option that says subscribe or select or follow. Any of those. Make sure you hit that. And if you want to do us a solid, especially if you're on Facebook, hit the share button. Share this broadcast, because if you like it, then odds are there's a bunch of people that follow you that are going to like it too. And if you like it, there could be some people that follow you that are going to hate it. And what's better than ticking off a bunch of liberals? There's really nothing I can think of at all better in the world than ticking off a bunch of liberals. So hit that subscribe button, like, share, comment, whatever you need to do. We want to just keep growing and getting bigger and better every single day, and we need your help to do so. Okay, so back to Tom Homan. This guy, he's right out of like a comic book for sure. But you may remember yesterday, I played for you a clip, and I'll play it again here. Do I have it? Yeah, Phil Murphy, who is the idiot governor of New Jersey. And this is the guy that would arrest Hasidic Jews for, I think there was was he a Hasidic Jew or just, it doesn't matter. He was praying on the beach during COVID. And he went and had him arrested because apparently you couldn't sit outside on the beach during COVID. That was like a big no-no. So Phil, there's so many different things. Phil Murphy is one of the worst governors, I think, in history, definitely in the history of New Jersey, even worse than, Chris Christie, for all his pound for pound was a pretty, thank you. Pound for pound Chris Christie was a fairly decent governor. When you get down to it, it was after the fact that he became kind of a weirdo. But Phil Murphy, definitely one of the worst governors in history. And yesterday he was on television on Fox News and he admitted to harboring an illegal alien above his garage.
Talking about, I don't want to get into too much detail, but there's someone in our broader universe whose immigration status is not yet at the point that they are trying to get it to. And we said, you know what, let's have her live at our house above our garage. And good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her.
Yeah. So not only does he admit, this is where it was dumb to admit, hey, there's somebody we know who doesn't really isn't here legally, basically. Their immigration status isn't what they want, which I imagine it would be to be here legally. And they live above their garage. They live above our garage. And not only does he say that, which is dumb, that's the first level of stupidity. That's it. Like, hey, let's go on Fox News, let's go on national TV and admit that we're harboring an illegal alien at the governor's mansion. Problem number one. Problem number two is he then taunts the ICE agents and the federal government, and Tom Homan specifically. He goes, let's just see the federal government try to come take her.
Talking about, I don't want to get into too much detail, but there's someone in our broader universe whose immigration status is not yet at the point that they are trying to get it to. And we said, you know what, let's have her live at our house above our garage. And good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her.
Yeah, good luck, feds coming in trying to get her. Well, Tom Homan was asked about that yesterday on, what's that guy's name? Hannity. And here's what he said.
Let me read a headline to you. Chicago leaders encourage residents to exercise their rights in resisting Trump's deportation policies. The governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, basically admitted that he knew somebody that didn't have full documentation, that he was hiding over his garage.
But there's someone in our broader universe whose immigration status is not yet at the point that they are trying to get it to. And we said, you know what, let's have her live at our house above our garage. And good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her.
Your comment on all of that?
I think the governor's pretty foolish saying what he said, because I got note of it. Won't let it go. We'll look into it. And if he's knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien, that's a violation of Title 8 United States Code 1324. I would seek prosecution, or the secretary would seek prosecution. So maybe he's bluffing. If he's not, we'll deal with that. And as far as suing sanctuary cities, well, get in line, because the Trump administration is going to do that already. Sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals. There's one example, right? If the young sanctuary cities in New York City, if they would have gave us over the killer of Laken Riley when he got arrested in New York City for endangering a child, he would have been in jail, and he would have never killed Laken Riley. Sanctuary cities are responsible for deaths of thousands of young children throughout my career, and we're going to sue them. We're going to hold them. And look, if he's got to go to the Supreme Court, that's what President Trump wanted to do. He will end sanctuary cities.
You know, there was
so he's going to end sanctuary cities. We're going to go in there. We're going to get the criminals. And yeah, if Governor Murphy is harboring an illegal alien, then that's a violation of federal crime, and we'll go in there. He has no problem. He has no qualms about going after the governor of a state, especially a state like New Jersey. He has no qualms about going after somebody who not only is harboring an illegal alien, but is bragging about it on television and daring the federal government to come and drag them away. It's really refreshing to see. It's really amazing to see. And I, for one, I'm all for it. I'm so excited about all of it. Listen, we had some big news yesterday too. So yesterday we talked, and it's almost, I don't want to say that I'm prophetic. It was pretty easy to tell. But yesterday we discussed at length the tariffs that Donald Trump issued. We talked about how, there were tariffs issued to Mexico. There were tariffs issued to Canada. There were tariffs issued to China. And all these products were going to be tariffed, not because we wanted to get into a trade war, but because we wanted to protect Americans from illegal immigration and the harm they bring, namely fentanyl, which kills so many. I mean, it kills so many people. Like there's so many deaths from fentanyl. It's really unnerving, and it's something Donald Trump urged. It's something Donald Trump promised to stop, and now is working toward stopping. And so what happened yesterday was right after we talked at length about how Mexico folded, I said something offhand like, I'm pretty sure Canada, any minute now will get off the phone with President Donald Trump, and they too will do whatever it is he says to relinquish these tariffs. And wouldn't you know it? That's exactly what happened. President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social yesterday afternoon. Canada has agreed to ensure we have a secure northern border and to finally end the deadly scourge of drugs like fentanyl that have been pouring into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans while destroying their families and communities all across the country. Canada will implement their $1.3 billion border plan, and as per Prime Minister Trudeau, will be reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology and personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to point a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canada-U.S. strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I have also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we will be backing it with $200 million. As president, it is my responsibility to ensure the safety of all Americans. And I am doing just that. I am very pleased with this initial outcome, and the tariffs announced on Saturday will be paused for a 30-day period to see whether or not a final economic deal with Canada can be structured. Fairness for all. So Donald Trump, within 48 hours, got exactly what he wanted. Donald Trump said, we need to stop this. We need stronger border security at the northern border, at the southern border. We've got fortified responses from our Border Patrol. We've got military personnel down there. We've got Hegseth and Homan, and they are on the scene. But what we need is Mexico and Canada to help. And they are not helping because it's easier for them not to. I said it before, I'll say it again. Mexico knows that anybody who comes into their country via their southern border is not staying in Mexico. Nobody's leaving El Salvador and Venezuela to go to Mexico. They're like, I'm not going to leave the degradation and the poverty of El Salvador to go live in the degradation and poverty of Mexico. No, I want to get to the United States of America, where they're going to give me a free cell phone, and they're going to give me a free lift up to New York City, where they're going to put me up at the Roosevelt Hotel and give me a stipend to live on every single day. I want free health care and schooling for my kids. That's what I want. I want all the dogs and cats I can eat. I know they're coming from Haiti. They're not coming. I get it. But that's what they're thinking. So they know. So Mexico's like, it's a temporary problem for us. They're going to end up in the United States of America. So we're not going to add any assets to our southern or northern border because it's not really an issue. Same with Canada. Canada, for as great as the country they are and as nice as they are, everyone's like, oh, Canadians are so nice, eh? They're so polite and pleasant and helpful, eh? We love Canada. They have the maple syrup and the mousse, and they're so nice. Yeah, that's nice and all that. But they're also allowing these people to come into the United States, and they're doing exactly what Mexico's doing. They're not policing their border because they know that these people aren't staying in Ontario. They know they're not staying in Alberta. They know they're not staying in Saskatchewan. They're going into the United States, and they're bringing their drugs and their crime and their fentanyl and everything else with them. Well, now Donald Trump said, you're going to pay one way or the other. You're either going to pay in tariffs or you're going to pay by putting soldiers at the border. And look at this. All those Democrats who said tariffs don't work, all those Democrats who said this is going to cause a trade war, all those Democrats who said prices are going to skyrocket, Chuck Schumer, who was trying to scare you into, you're not going to have avocados and beer, Americans. A little fentanyl is fine, but you got to have your avocado and beer. I mean, come on. Are you not okay with a little bit of fentanyl as long as you can have your avocado and your beer?
Let's just take Super Bowl Sunday, okay? It's going to affect beer, okay? Most of it, Corona here, comes from Mexico. It's going to affect your guac, because what is guacamole made of? Avocados, both from Mexico.
Yeah. Also, your brain, I believe, is made of avocado from Mexico or probably China. But Chuck Schumer's like, look, guys, I know that fentanyl's killing millions of Americans, but think about Super Bowl Sunday. Think about what are you going to do? You're not going to have beer and avocados. Well, apparently now you can have the beer and avocados. You're not going to get into a trade war. Prices are not going to go up. And oh, yes, we can also be fentanyl free because Canada and Mexico have now secured, get this, Donald Trump, in 48 hours time, he initiated tariffs. He sat back and listened as Mexico and Canada hemmed and hawed and made empty threats about their own retaliatory tariffs. And he watched as these imbeciles up north started pulling Kentucky bourbon off the shelves and would replace it all with signs that said, buy Canadian instead, eh? Buy some Canadian Club, eh? Instead of Maker's Mark or Buffalo Trace. Canadian Club, eh? That's what they were saying. And now, 48 hours later, both Mexico and Canada have said, okay, we're going to wave the white flag. In Mexico, they call it Flago Blanco, I think is what it's called. Blanca, it doesn't matter, one or the other. And that's it. And so now we've got American troops at the southern border. We've got American border personnel at the northern border. And we've got Canadian troops on the other side, 10,000 of them. And we've got 10,000 Mexican troops on the other side of the border. And we now have a fentanyl czar in Canada, who's hopefully going to do whatever they can to stop the flow of fentanyl into the United States. Or guess what? The tariffs will be right back in 30 days, just like Donald Trump promised. It's really wild. It's really amazing. And the thing is that, this is, and I've even done it myself, this is not a trade war at all. This was never a trade war. Senator Marshall from Kansas said it best yesterday.
This is the art of the deal. This is who Donald Trump is. I just want to emphasize that this is a drug war and not a trade war. Every day we lose about 200 Americans from fentanyl poisoning. We lose more Americans every year from fentanyl poisoning than we did during the entire Vietnam War. So to President Trump, this is very serious. It's good to see Mexico and Canada both step up to the plate and say, we're going to be responsible for our side of the border. I want to emphasize one more thing is that a lot of these fentanyl precursors are now being made in laboratories in Canada. So Mr. Trudeau needs to be smashing those laboratories up as well. So a great day for President Trump, a huge victory for America.
Okay, there you go. So great day for President Donald Trump, huge victory for America. And that is how we continue to win. Byron Donald said something similar, too.
Donald Trump told you he was going to do everything to secure this nation, and that's what he's done. No talking points, no silly blue ribbon panels that go nowhere, that do absolutely decisive action with results. That's what Donald Trump has brought here. Listen, nobody wants to be in an out-and-out trade war. There's other things that need to occur. But Canada and Mexico, both of them had to know how serious we are. They are going to commit the resources. The president, in my view, this is a win for him. But more importantly, this is a win for the American people. Fentanyl has been killing more Americans than anything else in our country. The number one cause of death between the ages of 18 and 45. The drug cartels have had operational control of both of our borders, Larry. This has got to change. Donald Trump promised it, and he has delivered.
Yeah, Donald Trump promised it. He has delivered. The winning just does not end. It continues over and over and over again. It's Caroline Leavitt, who again is one of the best choices for press secretary. She was on, what's that guy's name? Oh yeah, Hannity. And she spoke with him yesterday and talked all about how much good news there is, how much winning there actually is going on. And when you itemize it for just 2 weeks into a presidency, or I guess we're in the third week now, it is really incredible.
There is so much good news, so much winning out of the Trump White House right now that the mainstream legacy media can't keep up with it, because President Trump is signing executive order after executive order, delivering on promise after promise, and implementing fundamental change of our bloated bureaucracy and our corrupt government here in Washington, D.C. He was given a once-in-a-generation mandate by the American people to govern and to fundamentally transform Washington, and that's exactly what he is doing. And we finally, after 4 years of chaos and mayhem and apologizing for America, have a president again in the Oval Office who is standing up for America. And this is what it looks like when you have a leader of our great nation who uses the leverage of the United States, who understands that since our nation's founding, we have been viewed as that shining light on the hill. We have been viewed, rightfully so, as the best greatest, proudest country in the world. And President Trump is not afraid to say that or to use that for the American people's benefit. And that's why you have seen so many countries around the world in just the matter of 2 weeks cave to President Trump's demands. In the past 24 hours, you have Canada and Mexico agreeing to help secure our southern and northern borders. And these tariffs that President Trump threatened to impose on both Canada and Mexico, and they were sign, seal, deliver, I may add. Those were retaliatory tariffs for the last 4 years of treatment by Canada and Mexico of our nation. They have allowed an unprecedented wave of illegal deadly drugs and illegal criminals on our territorial borders. And President Trump said, enough is enough.
And she kept going, and she just kept going. That's the thing. When you have, somebody who speaks really well, speaks eloquently, is well versed in what's going on in the world, and when you have someone like Donald Trump who is nonstop, he's just doing stuff all the time. And when he's not doing stuff, he's doing other stuff. That's the thing. Donald Trump is never not doing anything, and he's got other people doing stuff for him while he's doing whatever he's doing. I mean, it's really incredible. Just over the weekend, Joe Biden never worked weekends. Joe Biden would leave. He'd go to Delaware. He'd sit on the beach. Remember, he was lounging. When Donald Trump went to Mar-a-Lago for 2 days, they tried to make it a thing. You know why they couldn't? Because while he was at Mar-a-Lago, he started he installed the tariffs. He sent Marco Rubio to Panama. He got the Panamanian president to agree not to do any more deals with the Chinese. And he got Mexico and Canada to bow down to us and help us stop the flow of illegal drugs into our country. All while he was supposedly away on vacation at Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago is not a getaway for Donald Trump. It's just his southern office. It is the White House North, or as I called the White House, actually, it's the White House South, rather. I call the White House now Mar-a-Lago North. In fact, when I was in DC last week, I was walking by and I did an Instagram story and I go, look, it's Mar-a-Lago North. And a couple of the tourists from out of town were confused by that. But that's okay. They're foreigners. They're confused about so many things. Hey, speaking of foreigners, let's talk a little bit about hockey, eh? Yesterday, Donald Trump, again, in the middle of signing executive orders and appointing people to important positions of power, dismantling the USAID, which, by the way, you can tell that the USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, which I'm going to be honest with you, that just sounds like a criminal agency. That just sounds like a front. What are we going to call it? Let's see. We're going to grab money from the taxpayers and we're going to launder it through something, but it's got to sound official. What are we going to call it? How about the U.S. Agency of International Development? U.S. Oh, that spells U.S. aid. Oh, that's great. Nobody's going to argue with something that called U.S. aid. That's fantastic, because that sounds like the U.S. is aiding people. That sounds like we're doing really good things internationally, when really what we're doing is we're taking American taxpayer money and we're just funneling it to our friends and neighbors and other agencies and spending money on all this stupid, ridiculous stuff that nobody wants, needs, or will make a difference. Great, let's roll with it. It just sounds like that kind of agency. So while he's dismantling the USAID, and while he's planning to do the same thing today to the Department of Education, Donald Trump took some time out to meet with the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers, who barely won the Stanley Cup. They won it. But the Florida Panthers, in true, I would just say, underdog Florida fashion, they went in last year, the Florida Panthers, and they won the first 3 games. It's a 7-game series. They beat the Edmonton Oilers in 3 games. One of the games was 9-2. And everyone was like, well, that's it. Edmonton's cooked. Edmonton won, guess what? The next 3 games, tying it up 3-3. And we're all here in Florida going, how does this happen? How did we become the Atlanta Falcons of hockey? Anyway, so we're sitting there and we're watching it. And then in game 7, they come back and they win. And so they went to the White House. They got to go to the White House. They got to meet President Donald Trump. And President Donald Trump was there. The Stanley Cup was there. They had this big, beautiful jersey framed for him that said 45-47. The whole team was there. And this is the best part. The entire team, a lot of them Canucks, I'd like to point out. These are not all Americans. In fact, most of them are probably Canadians. I think there's some Russians. a couple Swedes, wherever all the hockey playing countries are represented. But every single one of these guys, every player, every coach, every support staff member who was there at the White House showed up wearing a Donald Trump navy blue suit and a Donald Trump red tie. All right, there's one guy that has like a purplish tie, but he probably just like one's kind of pinkish looking. I guess he didn't have a red tie and he didn't have a chance to go on Amazon and get one. But they all showed up. They all showed up wearing red ties in honor of President Donald Trump. Joe Biden met with football teams. He met with the Kansas City Chiefs. He met with, well, I guess the Kansas City Chiefs again because they won back-to-back. He met with basketball teams. He met with all these people. Never once did an entire team of individuals dress up like Joe Biden. Never once did they all say, you know what would be cool to honor our president? Let's all wear Depends to the White House. As far as I know, I don't think that ever happened. But there it is. Donald Trump is being honored by these guys. They're all dressed like him as a show of respect. And Donald Trump, and it did not go unnoticed by the president of the United States.
I love all these ties. This is so cute. These people. Look at them. I walked in, I said, I think they like Trump.
Yeah, I think cute is the way. I don't know if... Look at these big hockey players dressed up and just like me. It's so cute. That's what Donald Trump, he describes them as cute.
I love all these ties. This is so cute. These people. Look at them. I walked in, I said, I think they like Trump.
Yeah, they did. They love Trump. They love Trump. And they came in and they had, they met the president. They took some photos in the Oval Office. It was lovely to see. And one of the things that they did, which I thought was great, was they had the guy, I forget his name. He's like the captain of the team. He's one of the few Americans. And he came up and he said, Donald Trump, by the way, made a joke about comebacks because Donald Trump doesn't mince words. If you lose 3 games in a row and jeopardize your 7-game sweep, he'll point that out and he'll make a joke about it for sure.
You gave the fans one of the most riveting comebacks in NHL history and any sport history. I don't know anything about a comeback, but they tell me it's very exciting.
Yeah, he doesn't consider Donald Trump said, I don't consider what I did a comeback. I don't consider it a comeback at all. I was just, going back to work after a 4-year hiatus. But that's what we got. And then the hockey team said, look, we want to thank you as well. And this guy gave a really cool speech. And then they gave Donald Trump some presents.
Thank you, Mr. President, for having us today. We greatly appreciate it. And being one of the few Americans, who loves this country so much, this is such an incredible day for myself. And, you wake up every day and really grateful to be an American. So thank you. But yeah, this team and this group of guys is super special, and everybody sees what we do on the ice, but I've built bonds with these guys that'll, I'll have for the rest of my life, and I'm forever grateful for these guys. We're forever champs, and I'll always remember these guys.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So with that said, we've got a few gifts for you. Mark, you want to give me a hand?
And that's when they gave him a hockey stick that was gold plated. That's when they gave him a jersey that said Trump 47. That's when they then retired to the Oval Office. They took a bunch of photos, and it was just a really cool experience. I wasn't there. It was a really cool experience, I imagine, for all of those guys that were part of this. And like I said, you can tell that they really respect Donald Trump and that they really had a different idea. They really had a different kind of notion of it. Just think about how great it is that they got to meet President Donald Trump instead of having to meet President Biden, because look, they won last year. It was what, June or July? I have to imagine that they held off this trip, right? Like they won the Stanley Cup and Joe Biden is still the president, because this was, I guess, when's the Stanley Cup? June. I think it's June. They won the Stanley Cup in June. Joe Biden is still the president. In July, Joe Biden steps down and Kamala Harris is the president, or as the nominee rather. And I imagine whoever's with the team is like, you know what? I know we're supposed to go to the White House after we win, but maybe let's hold off. They just kept ignoring the phone call. They kept letting it go to voicemail. They're like, let's just wait and see what happens with the election, because worst case scenario, we go see Kamala Harris, but maybe we get to go visit Donald Trump. And sure enough, it went the way they wanted it, and they were able to go to the White House, and they were able to meet the president that I'm sure they most. In fact, that's how I imagine it in my head. I imagine the team owner like, no, we're not going to meet Biden. We may not be in this position again. We are waiting, and we are going to meet President Donald Trump, which is exactly what happened. But and again, it's exciting for people. This is what you see again. You see people excited to be at the White House, excited to meet the president, inspired by the president. That little speech he gave, you're inspiring me. I'm one of the few Americans on this team, and it just makes me happy to wake up every single day in the United States of America. And I have you to thank for that, because for a long time, a lot of people woke up and, yeah, we were happy to be in the United States of America, but we were also stressed and downtrodden, and we couldn't believe, and we're just like, oh my God, what is happening to us? It's just, yes, it's the United States of America, but it's not the United States of America that I know. It's not the United States of America that I love. It's not the United States of America that I grew up in. The one where I thought to myself, I have every single opportunity. I have every single opportunity, and I can do whatever I want to do. It was a United States of America where it felt like the leaders weren't trying to help you, but instead were trying to harm you. And that is something that has been remedied now that President Donald Trump is back in office. One last thing he said to these guys when they were in the Oval Office was, of course, they're there to celebrate hockey. They're there to talk about the greatest show on ice. But with President Donald Trump, there's always another sport first and foremost on his mind.
Thank you.
Who's the best golfer in the group? So I've always thought ice hockey players tend to be the best golfers. Good player? Good. What's your handicap?
Yeah, which one do you? Yeah, hockey's great and all, and congrats on the Stanley Cup. But which one of you is the best golfer? Let's talk about golf. Let's talk about a real sport for a minute. Hockey players, they're always good golfers. And, Donald Trump's very tight with Wayne Gretzky. I'm sure he knows a bunch of other people. I think he knows the owner of the team because, fun fact, the Florida Panthers are right down the road from Mar-a-Lago. And I believe they're either getting a new stadium or a new practice facility or something right in West Palm Beach, right down the road, because right now they're in Sunrise, Florida. And I don't want to bore you with the geography of Florida, but Sunrise, Florida is the weirdest place for this venue to be. It's like Sunrise, Florida. The only thing in Sunrise, Florida is this massive, indoor stadium where you go to concerts. I've been to many concerts in Sunrise, Florida, and technically it's like Miami, it's West Palm Beach, it's that kind of area. But they always say they play in Sunrise. So anyway, but they're getting a new big stadium. I think now that they won the cup, they're going to be getting some new practice facilities near Mar-a-Lago. So it is really becoming the center of industry and sports and entertainment and everything else. And we can thank Donald Trump again for that as well. All right, speaking of things to thank Donald Trump for again, there is going to be, in addition to the USAID just being dismantled, Elon Musk saying we put it through the wood chipper and we're going to continue to do so. And you can tell, by the way, when an organization is corrupt. You can tell when an organization is a waste. You can tell when an organization is a funnel for unnecessary programs and just a way to make campaign donations to prominent Democrats, when prominent Democrats get really upset that you're defunding or dismantling that organization. Ilhan Omar from Minnesota, one of the squad members, one of the ones left. Ilhan Omar was at this big protest they had outside the USAID headquarters, and she was rip-roaring mad. She was furious at Donald Trump and said he was gutting the Constitution.
It is really, really a sad day in America. We are witnessing a constitutional crisis. We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator on day one, and here we are. This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like. When you gut the Constitution and you install yourself as the sole power, that is how dictators are made.
Yeah, I have a copy of the Constitution right here, and I've been going through it all morning, and I've been trying to find the part that says Donald Trump does not have the authority or the ability to gut the USAID. In fact, you know what's interesting? I couldn't find one mention. Oh, let me roll that. Let me scroll that back up. I couldn't find one single mention of the USAID in the Constitution. So I'm not really sure what she's talking about. I guess she's trying to say that he does not have the authority to do anything to the USAID the way he is. But wouldn't you know it, it appears that Donald Trump actually has all the authority to take care of the USAID, cut its funding, dismantle its staff, fire its staff because of the way that the Constitution is set up. The chief executive, the White House, the president rather, in the White House is the chief executive in charge of foreign policy. And what he says goes.
So he has plenary authority to carry out the foreign policy of the United States. So bureaucrats at USAID cannot interfere in the affairs of foreign countries to prop up regimes, to thwart America's interests, to facilitate mass illegal immigration, nor to facilitate diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, which violate federal civil rights law. All this DEI BS violates the federal civil rights law of the United States. So the president is at the apex of authority here. Moreover, as you mentioned, Congress doesn't dictate to these agencies how to spend the money. Agencies exercise discretion on these grants, on these contracts. So take, for example, funding to these non-governmental organizations, NGOs, that fund open borders. So they funnel tens of billions of dollars to these open borders private sector orgs. Congress never passed a law giving those organizations that money. President Trump can not only pause all those funds, not only can the agencies pause those funds, but agencies can instead, if they wanted to, give those funds to organizations that support border security, that deport illegal aliens, that find criminal aliens, that provide detention for dangerous illegal immigrants in this country. There's no law passed by Congress that says that we have to funnel money to organizations that traffic children. Quite the opposite. These are crimes. Illegal immigration is a crime. DEI is a crime.
And this is exactly what USAID is involved in. It's involved in the crimes of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if you don't believe me, just listen to Caroline Leavitt, who issued a statement where she read off an entire litany of ridiculous expenditures, basically for DE&I projects that the USAID has been funding with your tax dollars.
Through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's doing, which is why everybody's so mad. And you have to look at who's angry. You have to look at who's angry. If your neighbor is angry that the USAID is being defunded, I mean, maybe there's some, maybe there's cause to be alarmed. But I guarantee that the average American wasn't really clear on the USAID before all of this, before they started getting defunded, and nobody knew about it. And that's the way the Democrats like it. If you notice, there was never a light shed on the USAID by any of these people in the Congress, in the Senate, in the government, because they were reaping the rewards and they were getting all the benefits, and all this money that was being thrown around to them. And Elon Musk has come in and exposed it. And now they're upset. Now they're angry. But it doesn't affect everyday, ordinary Americans. Talk to all your friends. Talk to all your family members. Go on Facebook. Ask anybody, hey, is anybody else really affected by the USAID being shut down? They're going to be like, the what? No. It doesn't do anything to help Americans. It does, everything to line the pockets and inject cash into these ridiculous programs in these countries that are all over the country, all over the world, rather. And that's why the USAID has to go. And that's why Donald Trump's like, yeah, let's just get rid of it. Look at what we don't need it. We don't need it. It ain't doing nothing. It ain't doing nothing for us. There were a couple more things there's one more thing that happened with Joe Biden yesterday, which a lot of people are like, what's Joe Biden up to? Joe Biden. There's a lot of people who fall off the face of the earth, but none of them have fallen off the face of the earth faster than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And Joe Biden is used to falling. Joe Biden usually falls all the time. We've watched Joe Biden fall downstairs. We've watched Joe Biden fall upstairs. We've watched Joe Biden fall on stage. We've watched Joe Biden fall asleep. Well, now he's fallen off the face of the earth, except he popped back up. There was a big news story yesterday about Joe Biden and what he's doing next. Typically, when presidents leave office, some of them take a break, some of them write a book, they go on speaking tours. Some of them, go into, start a public policy, firm so that they could get more money in government grants. But of course, Donald Trump's not going to allow that to happen. So Joe Biden, I guess he called up his old buddy Barack Obama and said, hey, as you know, I'm no longer president, which means Barack Obama is no longer president, and I need something to do. And Jill said I should give you a buzz because when you left office, you got like $25 million and a massive mansion in Martha's Vineyard. So how do I do that? And I guess Barack Obama felt bad for him, felt sad for him, maybe felt indebted for stabbing him in the back and shoving him out of the presidential race, where he got replaced by Kamala Harris, who literally underperformed every county that Joe Biden ran and won in 2020. And so he hooked him up with his agency. Give them the Hollywood Reporter. Joe Biden is ready to make some Hollywood deals. Signs with CAA, Creative Artist Agencies. Creative Artist Agency is, I believe, the largest, if not one of the largest, talent agencies in Hollywood. 82-year-old Joe Biden now has an agency contract with one of the largest Hollywood agencies in California. Joe Biden has signed with Creative Artist Agency for representation as he begins his post-presidential era. President Biden is one of America's most respected and influential voices in national and global affairs, said Richard Lovett, co-chairman of CAA. His lifelong commitment to public service is one of unity, optimism, dignity, and possibility. We are profoundly honored to partner with him again. Lovett, along with fellow co-chairs Brian Lord and Kevin Huvane, has been among Hollywood's prominent backers of Biden and Kamala Harris's re-election campaign, as well as other Democratic candidates. The Century City-based mega agency already reps his White House predecessor via Barack and Michelle Obama's Higher Ground Productions, as well as Democratic-leaning polls like Joe Manchin has a CAA contract. Susan Rice, Beto O'Rourke, remember that guy? Beto O'Rourke has an agent at CAA. I had no idea. And many others across the aisle as part of its Speaker's Bureau. And the move for the Delaware politician marks a homecoming for Biden and the agency, which had repped him during his post-vice presidential wilderness from 2017 through 2020. In that time, Biden published a book, Promise Me, Dad, reflecting on his eldest son, Beau's battle with cancer, as well as embarked on a national paid speaking tour that sold 85,000 tickets. 85,000 people bought tickets to go see Joe Biden. That's insanity. Biden formally oversaw the blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. So Joe Biden is signed with CAA. Now, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, they make movies. They've got a Netflix deal. I think they have a podcast or something like that. They did that movie about the world coming to an end, and now where planes were falling out of the sky, and now lo and behold, it actually seems to be coming true. So we don't know if it was an actual manuscript or someone stumbled upon their plan for the next 10 years in the United States of America. They have TV. They have a new reality show called Later Daters, which is about old people going on blind dates with each other. So anyway, they're really into it, man. They're looking to make money. Joe Biden, it appears, is going to be. I don't know. I guess you can't make this stuff up. Joe Biden has signed with CAA, and it appears that the reason he's signed with CAA is because he wants to reestablish his speaking career. Joe Biden wants to reestablish his speaking career. This is a man who could barely speak. This is a man who could barely form a sentence. This is a man who couldn't talk without reading off of a teleprompter. This is a guy who would, how many times did we see Joe Biden go off on a tangent? How many times did we see Joe Biden get lost in a story that had absolutely nothing to do with anything at all? Joe Biden launching a speaking career. Imagine being the agent that gets called into the office and says, hey, listen, we got a challenge for you. we got a challenge for you. We have a brand new client, and we think that you're just the person to promote this client and get him some good speaking gigs. And they're gonna be like, oh yeah, who is it? Who did you get me? And then you have to tell them that it's Joe Biden, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. How do you sell that? You got to be a great salesperson to sell Joe Biden as a public speaker.
You know how much I'm going to do with the deficit this year? $1,500,000,000.
You caught that, right? That was this is the guy that they're going to put out there as a public speaker.
We're going to seize their yachts, their luxury homes, and other ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy. kleptocracy and the guys who are the kleptocracies.
Yeah. This is Joe Biden, who forgot the name of his own defense secretary at the very first presentation of his own defense secretary.
So I want to thank you both, and I want to thank the former general. I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there. I want to make sure we thank the secretary for all he's done to try to implement what we just talked about.
Yeah, that's Joe Biden. Joe Biden is going to go on a speaking tour, and he has an agent with one of the most powerful agencies who I guess is going to get him speaking gigs.
Gay bathhouses and everybody. It's all about round-the-clock sex. It's all. Come on, man.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I may actually want to go see that. I may go buy a ticket. If Joe Biden comes to my town, I may actually have to buy a ticket to go see the man speak. Because it could be a once in a lifetime experience, especially since he's 82. Like if he goes on a tour, it could be his one and only tour. Let's be honest.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
This is the guy. This guy he's going on a speaking tour. This guy got booked by CAA, and they're going to send him out, and people are going to pay. That's the other thing. That kind of angers me a little bit. I'm going to be honest with you.
I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize true international effort to pressure.
That guy is going to get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to give a speech. I mean, look, I'm not saying I was never president of the United States or vice president of the United States. I never created a shell company that funneled millions of dollars from China and Ukraine and Russia and other foreign adversaries. I never did any of that. But I have some stuff to say. And when I go and I speak, yes, I get paid, but I guarantee it's going to be nowhere near as much as Joe Biden is getting. And that guy just, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that life isn't fair sometimes.
Look, everybody's entitled to be an idiot.
Yeah. But, to get paid for it, that's a whole other story. Listen, we've got so much more to talk about, and there's a couple of other things that I haven't even touched on. And in just a minute, we're going to be kicking off something that I like to call the after party. And yesterday, we had our very first after party in our Patriot Club, in our locals community, which, by the way, it was stellar. It was amazing. We had so much fun. We had got so many new members yesterday. There were dozens and dozens of people who hung out after the show. It was like, I think we went long. I think we went like 45 minutes of extra content. There was a lot of Q&A. I answered a lot of questions that people had. We were going back and forth. We were talking about some other fun stuff. And as a member of the Patriot Club, you get a curated experience that you just don't get watching the regular feed. For example, you get to come to the after party, which again is exclusive. We're not going to be broadcasting that live on YouTube or live on Rumble or live on X or any of those places. It's only going to be in the Patriot Club, which is for local subscribers only. You also get, this is really cool, an exclusive community. There's a 25% discount on everything at the Mark Kaye shop. So if you go to the Mark Kaye shop, you can use your Patriot Club member code to get 25% off. And get this, free stickers. Look, they just came in. They're great. Everybody in the Patriot Club gets free stickers mailed to them. You just have to pay the shipping. And then, of course, like I said, you get to hang out with us here in just a minute. So it's $10 a month, which is it's nothing. It's really nothing. And it helps support the show. It helps keep the show going. It helps keep the show growing, because those are both very important things. And if you want to subscribe for a year, which a lot of people are opting to do, I thought that was not going to be as popular as it was, but 2 months free is evidently a big draw for people. If you pay up front, you get 2 months free. Otherwise, it's $10 a month. And we're going to be doing these after parties after every single broadcast, after every day, after every podcast. We're going to do the after party. We're going to hang out. Some days it may be an hour. Some days it may be 15, 20 minutes. Who knows? It all depends on what's going on. Like I said, you're going to have other exclusive events. We have monthly, events that we may be doing. There may be special interviews. I could always pop in with like a behind the scenes look at something that's happening. So if you would like to join, there's a couple ways to do it. First of all, you can go to Katriots.com. I put it right there conveniently in the corner, and that'll take you directly to the subscriber page. So you can subscribe and join. And in like 5 minutes, we're all going to be hanging out for the after party. If you're on Rumble already, there is a red button that says join. All you got to do, click that red button to join, and it'll take you right there, because Rumble and Locals are right. There's synergy. There's synergy between the two. So in the meantime, for everybody else, thank you so much for being here today. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you're watching online, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you're watching on YouTube or any of those other platforms, make sure you set the notification bell so that you get notified every single time we go live. And of course, if you're listening to our podcast in your car while you're at work, wherever you happen to be, maybe you're working out and you got the earbuds in, I appreciate that too. Make sure, of course, that you're getting this podcast every single day, as well as the 47 Daily, which is growing by leaps and bounds. I'm really excited when I have an idea that kind of takes off. And the 47 Daily podcast is, it's not really out of my wheelhouse. I'm not really a news guy, as you know. I'm kind of like a fun entertainment talky guy. I like to joke. But the 47 Daily, I thought, you know what? There should be a place where you can go and you can just get the news, like every single day, what Donald Trump is actually doing, what Donald Trump actually said, what Donald Trump is doing to make your life great again, and no propaganda and no BS and no fake news and no lies. And so that's what we do every single day. I get together all the stories from Donald Trump's Truth Social. I get all the press releases from the communications department at the White House. I get all the clips from Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, and other Donald Trump spokespeople, and I deliver it to you in like 20 minutes tops. 20 minutes tops. By the time it takes you to get to work or walk around the block or get the kids ready, you can be all up to date on the real news, not the fake news, the real news about what's going on in Donald Trump's second administration and how he's working diligently to keep all the promises he made to us during the campaign. So definitely check that out as well. The 47daily.com is where you go. In the meantime, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for listening. I hope that you were informed. I hope that you're entertained. I hope that you're as jacked as I am. I hope that you're as stoked. I hope that you look at this photo of Hegseth and Homan and you think to yourself, America is back, baby. America is strong. America is going to be okay. We are going to be protected. And yes, there are still going to be trials and tribulations. And yes, bad people are still going to try to take advantage of us. And yes, criminals will still try to come into this country. But we have, for the first time in a very long time, the strongest, the smartest, the keenest, the most dedicated, the most steadfast people in charge, starting with the President of the United States and working all the way down. And hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have even more of them if the Senate does their job. Pam Bondi, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, when all of these people in place, you think that Donald Trump has done a lot so far, you're right. But just wait until the full team is assembled. Then you're going to see America truly, truly made great again in record time. Until then, thanks so much for being here. Continue to dream big, continue to work hard, continue to fight so that we can continue to save the Republic. The after party begins in 3 minutes at the Kaye Club. I'll see you there.